Good evening. This is a work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. Welcome all. Our first order of business is a continuation of a public hearing, which will start in a moment. Before we get started, it's my pleasure to introduce Mary Jane Shimsky, our assembly person, for just our brand new assembly person. Welcome to Sleepy Hollow. It's a pleasure to see you here.
Yeah, I'm not used to the remote mics, but
You can come up.
it's
Jane, he wants you to come over here.
Okay.
We can't hear you, it's our work.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can just
All right. Okay, so we'll do it this way.
you can look for any one of the marshmallows up there. And
Well, I've never had much trouble not being heard before. But it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. It's very rare that we are down this time of year in district on Mondays or Tuesdays, but we had Monday and Tuesday off this week. So I've been trying to make the rounds and say hello and get a sense of who you all are, stay for a couple agenda items before I move on to the next village. A lot of great things are going on here. Congratulations on your state grant. I look forward to watching the process as you use it to transform your downtown. And anything my office can do to be helpful, obviously, we will be. Every village has a relationship of some kind with the state. I found it interesting looking at the agenda before. You have not just that, but you have an awful lot going on. You've got a very close relationship with the state, and part of my job here is to make sure it continues to be close, it continues to be efficient and profitable for you. And I look forward to representing the Village of Sleepy Hollow, and so I'm also looking forward to hearing what's going on at the meeting tonight. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to working closely with you, and what we'd love to hear you say is there's more where that came from.
I can't promise that.
But thank you for coming in and we're looking forward to not just in these kind of meetings, but being able to show you some of those projects as they progress up close. So thanks.
Very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay, we will continue our public hearing on vehicles, motorized vehicles in our public parks. Does anyone wish to address the board on the matter of the public hearing? Yes. Ma'am.
Ann White from Kendall Way. I come to speak on the subject of the public hearing this evening as a pedestrian. I transported my very high-scale bike from St. Paul to here when I moved here almost 7 years ago, and I saw the hills, and it sat in the garage for 3 years, and I finally donated it to Writers Center benefit, knowing that I was never going to ride it in Sleepy Hollow. Now that the era of e-bikes has come, if I were a little younger, I might consider one of them. But I don't think that's a good idea, having broken a wrist playing tennis a few years ago. I think I've learned a few lessons. So what I want to say is that I think this proposal is really half-baked at the moment and needs much more attention to details. I see that this week you've added the designated areas, which weren't included last week in the proposal. But starting with the definition of motorized vehicles, it really seems unfortunate to to put the pedal-assisted electric bicycles under this category and then state that they will not be considered motorized vehicles. My suggestion would be that you add to the sentence saying propelled or moved by power carried by the vehicle itself, and say including or something to the effect, vehicles that have a throttle or accelerator and require a driver's license and can exceed speeds of 20 miles per hour. So you would be defining the vehicles that are included under motorized vehicles, and then move the pedal-assisted bicycles down under non-motorized vehicles. I think it might also be useful to mention something about the emissions from vehicles that are fueled by fossil fuels as opposed to e-bicycles. And as a pedestrian, I'm often overtaken by a bicycle or something like that that comes up fast. And now I'm thinking particularly of our beautiful new Riverwalk Park, that we have multiple paved places that people can go. And can't we separate out and define different spaces to allow the bicycles to have separate spaces from pedestrians and not surprise people like me with poor hearing, to have them come up suddenly and really not know which way to move to avoid being hit. So I'm suggesting that we look more closely at different suggestions. The other thing I would note is that one of the things I'm most in fear of is people on skateboards who sometimes the skateboard flies out, but I don't know what to do about that. So I think the emphasis should be on yielding to pedestrians. And I want to just close with the beginning of my poem that is painted on the wishing wall. It says, "This is my wish, that this great mural may become a bridge, a multicolored ribbon by the river, tying our community together. And for this hearing, I would like to apply that to the opportunity of the Riverwalk. This is my wish, that the Riverwalk may become a bridge, a multicolored ribbon, tying our community together for all forms of transportation." Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board on the matter of the public hearing? Yes? Yeah, please use we have a vast viewing audience, and they're going to want to hear everything you have to say.
All right, right on this white thing?
Yep.
This is the mark? All right, cool. Thank you for hearing me. My name's Riley Moeller. I'm with Pedigo Electric Bikes out of Croton on Hudson, New York. My wife and I are former Sleepy Hollow residents. We bought our first home here. We had our first 2 children here, and we moved to Croton just before the pandemic started. And we now both run Pedigo Electric Bikes from up in Croton and have a number of customers in this area. And we also still participate in charity events. We donated a bike at the Sleepy Hollow Rivertown Runners to help raise money, and I think that goes back into the community. So we're still involved, and owning an e-bike store, when a band goes up, when a band's mentioned, our ears kind of perk up. So I think that, I don't remember your name?
Ann White.
Ann White. I think Ann White hit a couple topics really well, and it seems like what the concern here is safety in parks, and we don't want pedestrians being run over and, holy shit, what was that, you know? And so I applaud your effort for that, and I think that, I know that I'm on the same page, and we're on the same page with you there. But how it is being implemented, I think it could be done better. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is, the point that Ann mentioned was yielding to pedestrians. So speed is not limited to a Class 2 e-bike. The Class 2 e-bike has a throttle versus a Class 1 that does not have a throttle, that only has pedal assist. So Class 2 has pedal assist and throttle, Class 1 only has pedal assist. Both of them have a max speed of 20 miles per hour. I'm a cyclist. I used to do a lot of road biking. I would often hit speeds on flat ground, not downhill, on flat ground, of 20 miles per hour and higher. You have skateboarders and other motorized or non-motorized things on wheels that can be very unsafe if not used properly in a park. So because Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes, that's sort of what I'm going to focus on here. They take up the same footprint. 2, they have the same max speed. So I'm not sure that I understand why a Class 2 e-bike with a throttle is being singled out. If any of you have ridden an e-bike, and if you haven't, I'm happy to invite you up to our store, and I will take you out and I will show you this firsthand. At slow speeds, when you're in a park and you have to maneuver around people and give way to people, it is often much easier for the rider to do that when he has a throttle, because you can literally dial it into 1 mile per hour, 2 mile per hour, 3 mile per hour. Whereas pedal assist, especially if it's a Class 1 pedal assist bike, right, no throttle, especially if it doesn't have a torque sensor, if it's cadence, as long as those pedals are moving, in the lowest level of pedal assist, you're going 8 miles an hour or you're going 0. There is no in between. So it becomes much harder to have that control unless you turn all the power off. And at that point, you know, it just seems like it's not the best way to, it's not going to make your parks any safer. And it's going to prevent people who might otherwise never be able to get out and ride on hills to go out and do that. We have worked with a number of people who are amputees, who otherwise could not get out with their family and ride a bike without the use of a throttle. So I think we're all in the same agreement that parks need to be safe, and pedestrians should feel safe walking through a park. But because speed is the major issue here, and there are so many other things that this wouldn't capture in that, it just seems like it's not the best way to move forward with it. And I'm serious, I would love, if any of you want to come up and talk about this more in our shop, or see what it's like, throttle versus something without a throttle, we have them both, I'd be happy to do that.
What's the name of the store again, Riley?
Pedigo Electric Bikes. It's right by Baked by Susan.
We got your email,
Yes.
Yep.
so you
Okay.
should have the.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Wait, don't
Yes.
go any, this is not, public hearings are normally not a question and answer period, but we have somebody who has some expertise that I don't think any of us have, and that is you two. So you didn't, in your email, you said there's a Class 3, which is the throttle only, and you didn't say anything about that.
So
In your email, you also said they go 28 miles an hour.
Right. So there's 3 classes of e-bikes. Class 1 and 2 have a top speed of 20 miles per hour. There's also a limit on the motor size, so the motor can't be larger than 750 watts. The only difference between 1 and 2 is 2 has a throttle and pedal assist, 1 only has pedal assist. When you get into a Class 3 e-bike, when you have a motor that's larger than 750 watts, or speeds that are greater than 20 miles per hour, and often that top speed is 28 miles per hour.
Okay.
Some manufacturers have it at 30, but often it's 28. I don't think that those should be allowed in parks and rail trails at all. I think we're in agreement there. I think that there's just maybe some, I don't know what you noticed, but there might be a lack of understanding between what a class 1 and a class 2 is, and yeah.
That's
I'm
certainly
happy
the
to help.
case for me. Question for you, because, you know, what we're after here, I think, is being reflected in both of the comments so far, and that's respect for one another and a sense of civility in our parks and environments and more comfortable ones. Question about the class 1. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So we should allow class 2, but not class 1 or class 3? Because it sounds like the class 1, you said, hey, you're either going, you know, you can't go slow is the way I heard it. It's hard to go 2 miles an hour on a pedal assist when it's only pedal assist.
And that's why I think that this is maybe not the best way to approach making parks safer by singling out just because something has a throttle. If you take that away, there can still be a number of other things, motorized or non-motorized, that can go flying through a park, and you are left with the same problem.
Okay.
A class 3 bike that has a throttle and can go fast can also function as a regular bike.
Yes, it can.
Okay.
Class 3?
So,
Yeah.
so most electric bike brands, you can ride them like a regular bike, meaning you don't have to have power, and you could just ride it solely on your own legs.
Okay. So if you ran into a speed limit kind of thing, you could say, oh, I'm just going to turn the power off. I'm going to
Right.
pedal it through.
And
as long
class
as
3,
it's flat.
that's the max speed, right? So that doesn't mean you have to go that fast. There's different levels of pedal assist. You can turn the throttle a little, or you can turn it the whole way, and those affect speed. So someone with a class 3 e-bike could very easily be coming and riding through the park at 5 miles an hour, and someone with a class 1 e-bike could be zipping by them at 20 miles per hour, followed by a guy on a drop handlebar road bike at 20 miles an hour. I think you get my point.
Thank you. I do, that's helpful. Other questions for this witness?
That's really helpful, and your email was really
Yeah.
very helpful in clarifying that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to say thank you for the education part into that. It definitely like hit a lot of points that it was on the blind side on my side from me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Does anyone else, would anyone else like to address the board on the matter of the public hearing? Okay. All right, we've heard a fair amount of, we've got a lot of correspondence on this issue. The one thing I would point out that no one has weighed in on anything that's not considered a bicycle in some way or shape or form. And one of the things that we're also looking at is ATVs and mini bikes and like, what's a moped? You know, some of them have pedals and, you know, but nobody's weighed in on that. So I'm taking that to mean that everybody's fine with banning ATVs in the parks or on the sidewalks in the parks. What's your pleasure as far as the public hearing is going? You want to close it or keep it
I'm
open
okay
for?
with closing it.
If you make a motion and there's a second, we can vote on that.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? All right, the public hearing is closed. Just so you know, we now have 60 days in which to do something. If we don't do anything, none of this takes effect, okay?
I was going to ask,
What happens now? Yeah. And so what we'll do is take this back. Some of us may show up and take you up on that. I, for one, have never been on an electric bike.
Otherwise, if we choose not to adopt this particular policy, right, we would have to introduce a new public hearing if we were going to amend this substantially.
My understanding is that we can soften the provisions of it. So we could go through and say, okay, well, we already have one kind of electric bike is not covered, is allowed. So generally what we try to do is make it as strict as we think we might want it to be. And then that gives us the room to say, okay, well, we can loosen it up around here and here, whatever those points may be.
Do we think that,
And if not, sorry to just finish, and if not, council will say, no, do another public
yeah,
hearing.
okay.
So,
Yeah, because personally, I'm interested in speed limits.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
interested
Yeah.
in dismount zones,
Yep.
like we can designate particular areas within the park as a dismount area. Because there will be places where we don't want people pedaling through on a bike, because it'll be crowded, so we can think about that. I think we could get a little bit more targeted than this.
Especially if you could switch on and off the assistance of the motor, because
Mhm.
then you never know. So the speed
Right.
limit, I think, would be more effective anyway.
yeah. And my guess is that anybody on an electric bike that turns off the motor is not gonna go very fast. They'll look really heavy to me,
Yeah.
more than my old Schwinn, which I think weighed 53 pounds. So when I got it, I probably weighed about 55, so. But that was another time and era. All right, so public hearings adjourned. We will continue to closed, excuse me. We'll continue to discuss this among ourselves and I think take some kind of action in the next 60 days. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your help, and look forward to seeing you again. All right, we'll move on to our next item is a presentation from the community wardrobe folks. Welcome back. Hopefully you got a lot of good news for us.
Good evening, everybody. Well, Diana Lopez, Communities Liaison for the Village of Sleepy Hollow. Like I promised, we're going to come back and talk about more details about the community wardrobe. We have here Lisa and Daphne. I'm going to let them introduce.
My name is Alyssa Smith. I'm a social worker, and I'm also the vice president of the PTA for Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown.
And a co-founder.
And a co-founder of the community wardrobe.
Which I'm Daphne Viller. I'm a resident of Sleepy Hollow. Represent the PTA for the high school. A novelist by trade and co-founder and co-director of Community Wardrobe.
So we're here to give you more information on the community wardrobe and clarity about who we serve, what we do, and that we are seeking assistance as we move forward with our mission. So our mission for the community wardrobe, as you can see here, is to continue to alleviate clothing insecurity among TU FSD and 10591 families while providing a dignified shopping-like experience to those clients who come to us. So what does this actually look like? So what we have are just a series of photographs. We just want to drive home, what this actually looks like, how our operation is working. We, as PTA members, had started to work with our school social workers who were reaching out to us to say that there were families in need of clothing, and it was like one-off requests where families needed help. And we realized rather than focusing on sort of these one-off requests, why can't we do something that's much, a much bigger impact where we can service people, instead of running around scrambling, let's create a system where we can actually effectively and quickly give people clothing who are in need. So, and thankfully we met Diana. So in the midst of us coming together at the PTA, we were very lucky to meet Diana, who was wanting to work on the same mission. And we connected with her, and what you see is one of the first clothing drives. This is actually the bathhouse at Kingsland Park. And we had a huge number of donations. This is when COVID was, still quite a bit in effect. And we went from there through, just the next slide. to this. We were able to, through our volunteers, which I can touch on later, is to create a system of organized clothing that we can get out to our families. Next slide. The great thing with volunteers, especially with our community wardrobe, what you see are some students on the left, some of our other volunteers on the right, more students. We're able to really engage with the community to help get the clothing together, organized, and out to people effectively. This was the last space that we were in. We've been in a couple different places. It's been 5, okay. As one can imagine, there's a lot of physical labor that goes into not only sorting the clothes, but moving from space to space. I think we've, despite having to move often, I think we've been able to effectively get clothing to people, but it's a lot of work. And this is one of the last spaces we were in. We were housed temporarily at Westcop. We were able to serve a lot of clients through them. This is the Shames JCC in Terrytown. This was our last space. And what you're looking at are racks of clothing. There's infant clothing here. We also provide shoes. Coats, again, men's, women's clothing, children's clothing, infants' clothing. And then here's just a quick video. So that when a client comes in, the purpose, going back to the idea of a dignified shopping experience, people can walk in and that they can look at the racks, it's organized, it's clean, it gives people the opportunity to make choices for themselves, for their families, for what's most useful for their families. This isn't a process of just simply bagging up clothes and throwing them to people in an emergency situation. They can actually go through and choose what works best for them. So again, everything is sorted by size. We try to create space, again, that it makes it for an efficient and useful shopping experience. Since then, we've been very fortunate to come into space on 222 North Washington. And we are seeking assistance as we try to expand into this space. That being said, just looking at stats, again, we do track, let me back up, I'm sorry. Clients that, you can move it there. Clients that come in, we do a one-page application. We feel it's important to track stats. And as you can see, when we started in April, we started with 66 families, which when you boil down the numbers, it's actually a full 283 people that were served. If you look down, out of the families that were served, 45 people came from Sleepy Hollow. 45 families. Going into June, you see the numbers start to increase. Again, majority of the clients that are coming to us are from Sleepy Hollow. We certainly will serve people from neighboring towns. We don't want to turn people away. Going forward, you'll see in September, same thing. The numbers are increasing. Majority are from Sleepy Hollow. November, close to same in numbers. And also if you see the number of, not only is it just the families, but you'll see the students that we served in our school system, right? So in September, we served 111 students. In November, we served 96.
Back to school numbers increase in September.
Yeah, exactly, which we take notice of, right?
I just want to add in, this is just at the JCC. We started in December of 2020. These are just our 2022 numbers. And November is small because it was a last minute addition. They said, oh, we don't have to kick you out just yet. And so we were able to mount another set of shopping days, we call them. Mm-hmm. We also have Halloween costumes.
Good to know.
You will,
we can do that when we go into the operations. Okay, so how do we operate? So communication, number one. So people come to us through our social workers, and we really have amazing social workers in our school systems, in all the schools. They are very well connected to our families. They come to us to let us know, hey, we have people who are in need. We utilize social media, Facebook, Instagram to communicate what we offer. Again, word of mouth clearly is huge. We also look to, example, for like the Life Center here in Sleepy Hollow, we connect with them to make sure that they get the word out as well. Community Food Pantry in Terrytown, and then we do email blasts. Diana is key in also getting the information out to our communities, and we use it's signup.com where people can make appointments. So when you come in to shop, you actually do make an appointment so we can at least keep things somewhat organized and also give people space to shop in a way that, works and makes sense. In terms of donations, the great thing, and this is one of the things too that, perhaps we could say a silver lining of COVID, was that people really went through their closets. So we were very fortunate, and we continue to be very fortunate how generous people are in terms of donations that they make. We do ask for clothing that is gently used, but we really do go through to make sure that what we're providing for people is appropriate. We will make sure that clothing are clean, they're not ripped, unless that's fashionable. But, we really make, like ripped jeans are great. People love ripped jeans. But we really make an effort to provide clothing that is appropriate. And that being said, we certainly have gotten things that we've gotten things that are torn or stained. We work hard to recycle clothing, so there are through
Trilogy and Tash, we bring huge garbage bags every Saturday.
and we can recycle clothing. We also try to take things to Goodwill where we can. So we're also trying not to create more waste. We're trying to be smart about that as well. We also do take on shoes. Toiletries is a huge thing. Unfortunately, programs like SNAP, which was formerly known as food stamps, SNAP does not cover toiletries. So you can imagine how expensive toothpaste is, mouthwash, women's hygiene products, things like that, extremely costly. We accept donations for those such things, diapers, things of that nature. We've also had some miscellaneous items, when we've had space. So for example, we've been able to provide, cutlery, dishes, blankets, sheets, towels, toys, things like that. So that's when we've had space to have those things available for people. In terms of volunteers, which I was speaking about earlier, so we, again, in terms of finding volunteers, we do use the signup.com link where people can sign up to volunteer. Again, we utilize word of mouth and social media to find volunteers, and this is also great for students. This is huge. We are able to sign off on community service hours for students, and they've been wonderful in terms of signing up and helping us out. We also do have multilingual volunteers, which has been great, Spanish speaking, other languages. In terms of hours of operation, we up until now have been doing more seasonal shopping. So we look at, fall, winter, spring, summer. Clearly fall is huge because of back to school, right? So we try to, be mindful that when it's back to school time, it's also a great time to have backpacks, some school supplies, things like that. Obviously winter, huge for coats, hats, scarves, things of that nature. So we are very mindful about what we are putting out based on season. That also being said is that if we have serious emergencies, which we have had, families literally showing up in the community with nothing, we're not going to make people wait for a shopping time. We can go in and we will pull clothing and help people. I think the fire that, the Sleepy Hollow fire, also on, that was North Washington, right? North Washington. We were able to help a lot of those families in that situation. We were able to quickly clothe them and replace what they had lost in the fire.
The next day, they were able to come just select.
And just to add also, a lot of other church here, like our churches here, they don't have actually provide clothing at all. So we are the to-go people. So when they need emergency needs, they'll contact us and we arrange that. And we are working in terms of doing evening hours. When it's emergency, we can as long as we have access to the place, we were able to get them in when they need it.
Yeah. Okay, so going forward for our vision, again, as we had mentioned, we've moved quite a bit, and at this point, in order for us to really effectively serve the community, we really desperately need a permanent home. And that's what we're looking at now at 22 North Washington. We really, if we could put our roots down, we could focus more, rather than moving constantly, we could focus on the people who are in need and get the clothing out to people. We'd also like to expand our Amazon wish list. Again, this wish list on Amazon is for example, new underwear, new socks, women's products, things like that. So that's the wish list has been very helpful. We certainly have had people donate through that, but we'd like to expand that. We also want to continue to expand opportunities for volunteerism, and particularly also focusing on our students. We'd also like to establish a computerized client database. So recognizing how important it is to keep statistical information. Again, we've been very good about that. We do, as I said, ask for some information from clients. We also do that in a dignified way so people don't feel nervous. This is not information we're handing out to other people. This is strictly confidential, but it would be great if we could have a computerized data system, which it would be so much easier to manage that kind of information. We also want to continue relationships with our refugee resettlement organizations. We have had clients from the Ukraine who have come here. We've also had clients from Afghanistan who have moved here that we've been able to serve. And we want to continue just to expand with places of worship and other nonprofits. Publicity. So we were really, and this was very exciting for us, so when we first started this project, we actually, unbeknownst to us, we were featured through Governor Cuomo when he was doing the daily briefings during COVID. It was really an exciting moment for us. We have been featured in the River Journal. Also, when we had the Sleepy Hollow fire, we were featured again. And then we've actually been on News Channel 12. That was also very exciting. We were interviewed by them, and we actually managed to get a news segment on. So it was really, really great. Breaking news. So we actually were just awarded the New York State PTA Award for Community Service. Also a big deal for us. We literally just found this out, and this was really exciting for us. So making a difference. We are in need of fundraising at this point. We're working really hard to fundraise. Our space is not free. The spaces that we were in before were free, but it was limited, right? Our time was limited. We are now in a space where we are going to have to pay rent. We're very fortunate that the people who are renting to us are being very generous to us. But rent needs to be paid. We do need assistance with paying for utilities. We've been so lucky with clothing donations that really, it's sort of like the day-to-day operations that we need to focus on and we need the funding for. Daphne has been, and both Diana as well, in terms of grants. We have applied for grants. We've applied for grants directly to the community. We've been working very hard to research what is available to us, and we've already started that entire process. We have applied to the Rotary Club and are looking at other options, and we're actively fundraising as we speak. And we also did put out a fundraising email to the local community at large, and we have had some donations already coming in.
Yeah, we very quickly raised 2 months of rent in just a week or two from direct appeal to our, we have a mailing list of over 350 people, and then family, friends, and that continues. And I do want to reemphasize, our only costs now are rent and utilities. We are completely volunteer run, we are completely operate on donated clothing. So one thing, I think we need to add it into the slides, the high school, some very, actually Sophie Taylor, who won the Community Service Award, she worked with us. They now call it the Rotating Thrift Shop. It started out as the satellite shop to Community Wardrobe, and they call it thrifting in Ms. Walsh's office. So they, in the guidance wing, they have, Sophie was rotating through, she'd feature like jeans and then sweatshirts, and then they would have flyers, and this was Sophie's idea, telling so that the kids could take the flyers home to the parents and tell them to come shop at our bigger space. So I say we use the word shop, there's no money exchanged. And so they are single-handedly reinforcing the environmental part of this, which we are doing too. This is my point, that we're not buying new clothes, it's all used clothing. But the students are also reducing the stigma of used clothing for certain people who feel that it's not cool. But that's changing, and so we're trying to pick up on what the kids are doing. And so my point being that there is an enormous amount of clothing that is donated. enormous number of volunteer hours, and so all we need now is rent money and utility money. We also provide concert blacks to the 4th through 12th graders. We have racks in the music rooms, so that any child who's performing and needs black clothing for performances. We always provide Halloween costumes, and we also always have a rack of horseman spirit wear.
Oh, that's, yes. Oh, and prom clothes.
And
for
prom clothes, right.
Suits and dresses.
Wow.
So, I'm sorry, that's a major point.
Yeah, we forgot, we
We
have a
did
slide for that.
not touch on, apologize.
I don't care about the prom, but you got me on the music clothes.
Yeah, yeah, so that every
So-
child
Yes,
can.
everybody,
Yeah.
always
And
pull,
we-
we always pull concert blacks,
And we
always.
put racks in the actual, at WI in the middle school, high school band rooms.
So are you at the ground floor
Good
in
night.
that building?
Yes, where the various candidates have had offices. Mondier Jones and Alessandra Biaggi were the last occupants of the space where we are.
Okay.
So we were about to open. Volunteers have been painting, including the Boy Scouts. Diana found a contractor who put in, there was some really nasty carpeting. Diana herself tore out the carpeting one night and had somebody, he donated his profits, and we just paid for labor and materials to put a new floor, and we're, days away from moving in.
So Sophia Rana, so she could not join us today, but she is our other partner on this project, and she is the president of the PTA. That's me, Daphne, and then Diana. Do you have any questions or anything that we could?
So what is the rent, what's your monthly rent? And what are the costs for the utilities? What is?
Good question. So, okay.
So, based on, we had spoken with the landlords and we had gotten previous bills and just kind of researched, what utilities had cost. We're looking at about anywhere from probably $150 to $300 a month, based on prior utility bills. And rent at this point.
Rent is $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month, but an anonymous donor immediately pledged $3,000 to underwrite it, so it's $1,250 a month. We have a 2-year contract, a 2-year lease.
2 years.
So we just need to raise $1,250 a month now.
Cool.
Yeah. And like I said, we've raised 2 of those months and maybe more.
So what we're asking is, we're trying to raise the money to pay the rent, but we're asking for the village to see if they can help us support the utility bills, which can come to approximately $300 a month.
Yeah, we're averaging about $300.
At 300, we average, it can be less.
For
you
gas
know,
and
it
electric.
depends. That's basically.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is zoned for commercial, and I spoke to Con Ed today, and they do not reduce the rate
We
for
tried.
nonprofits.
Mhm.
So I tried to get a church,
We have
tried to
tried
get
that.
a church and residential rate, but they
won't do that.
I just want to say thank you so much for all the tires and many hours that you put into serve the community. I know that you don't get any remuneration monetary into, but all the service that you do, all the people are appreciated for it.
Thank you for saying that, we appreciate that.
Yeah. We enjoy it.
We do.
Yeah, I echo what Renee just said. It's a very valuable service that you guys are providing for the community. Regarding fundraising, have you considered like a one-off fundraiser event?
Yeah.
Is that in the works? If it is, I'm happy to jump in and help.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So that's definitely on the radar. We haven't quite formulated it yet. We've been pulled a bit thin as we're trying to.
Yeah.
We have so many balls in the air, as you can imagine, right? But absolutely, and I think that would be clearly an effective way, and we would appreciate your help with that. That would be great.
Okay.
And I will pitch in too.
Thank you.
That would be
We can get you live music too.
Perfect.
But yeah, we do need help with the utilities, which would be great. And we do refer to this project as a joint, our tagline is Community Wardrobe is a joint effort of the Horseman PTA and the Village of Sleepy Hollow to find new homes for good clothes free to neighbors who need them. So that's how we pitch it to anybody we meet.
And of course, Village of Sleepy Hollow, because we wanted to thank the DPW people when we needed to help to move. They've been very supportive.
Very helpful.
Marcia
Very helpful.
arrived
Very
many
helpful.
times to move us to all our different locations.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything you've
Yeah.
already done.
Yeah.
And you're lending us a room at the bathhouse for where our racks are stored until we can move in while paint dries.
If you have any other questions, I mean, we are available.
Donations tax deductible?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, yes. So we're still technically a committee of the Horseman PTA, so we're fully a 501c3, and
status.
all donors receive tax deduction letters. Yes.
It's important to say that.
Yes.
We forgot the most important thing. We
We'll work on that.
That's
one.
true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was the space heated? Just
The building, I believe, is, I don't know if it's oil or, oh, it's gas. It's gas.
these
Yeah.
steam radiators?
No. I think it's forced air.
Wait,
Yeah.
Jared's already heading into
It's
some
cost.
solar power.
Because it's fake.
That's right. Okay, I'm installing geothermal in my front
Are
yard
you
as we
really?
speak for the second time in Sleepy Hollow. Never mind.
Thank you for your time. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Just to echo what Renee said and Tom said, on behalf of all of us in the village, actually, thank you so much for what you do. I was looking at my notes from the public hearing, and I thought, I wrote respect and civility, and it's like, hey, guys, it's exactly what you do. I mean, the amount of respect you show folks by saying things like shopping. Even though you're making them pay, it just, it's really wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you guys.
You as well.
I'm Mr. Byrne.
Okay, write it right down. Next discussion item is IMA. Mr. Giaccio and Chief, are you weighing in on this?
Yeah, the chief could weigh in on this. Good.
So before you use this, an IMA for the county in regards to our Stop DWI program, where the county gets funds from the state and then allocates it to different villages, specifically for Stop DWI patrols and speeding. It's predominantly done on the weekends, starting Friday night from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. It's usually divided into two different time periods, 9 to 12 and then 12 to 3 a.m. And it's all reimbursable from the county.
We've done this before, correct?
Yes, we've done it before. It comes up every 5 years for this renewal.
They pay for the overtime? That makes what it
Yes.
costs?
Any questions for anybody? It's pretty
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
The work session is called Stop the Intermunicipal Agreement, but are we going to?
No, stop DWI, that's what the program's called.
Got it, okay.
Maybe I could.
The work, it says stop this interview, so I was confused about whether we were trying to not do this. There's a missing comma. There you go. There's a missing comma. A lot more sense.
Fight the internet.
Right, yeah, I'm like, whoa, I don't know this agreement. Cool.
Okay. All right, so we'll put it on for next week. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Next up, we have a grant for downtown I just love that we get grants from the Dormitory Authority. And it just seems so weird, but that's the way funding flows. But we have a grant for improvements to Beekman Avenue, Valley Street, and Cortlandt Street, and I think I don't think it's limited actually to those streets because we haven't actually designed it yet exactly how we want to spend this, but we are required to put up a $50,000 match, which seems like a pretty good deal. We get $300,000 worth of work for $50,000, and we'll need to do a resolution noting that we're going to, if we get that, we'll put in the 50. So two things. One is we need to have a resolution next week, which I recommend that we all approve. And the other is that we need to put a plan together to say exactly what do we want to do and where in the downtown. So we've got the New York Forward coming on, we've got this, we've got the park at the intersection of Cortlandt and Beekman. We've got a bunch of money flowing in from our efforts over the last couple of years to be able to make some really profound and substantive improvements downtown.
We have another grant for the Cortlandt Plaza, correct? This is separate.
Separate from this one,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another 80,000
Awesome.
for that,
Yeah.
so. Been
Great.
working hard is what
Yeah,
we've
that's
been all
awesome.
been doing.
Yeah.
So, any questions about this?
No, just a comment, Ken. I'd heard that, this is related here, I'd heard that there's dirt flowing from, I guess, Morse School onto the sidewalks because of the way the water flows there, you know, across Beekman. And I'm wondering if this can, if that could somehow be contemplated as part of this work. I know it's school grounds, but, you know, maybe there's something we can do.
It's definitely something that, it's come up before, and if you're kind of in the middle of the block there where the stairs come down, you can see how the water and the soil flows around onto the stairs and down onto the sidewalk. And right now, it looks pretty sad, since there seems to be no ground cover at all there. So I think you know, we should look at that and see what we can do. There's been some interaction with the school in the past and seeing what we could do there. We just have to figure out how we can do it since it's not our property.
Yeah. But it's having an impact, though, on our property. And,
Yeah.
it just feels like it's something.
In fact, the mayor and I were walking on Sunday, and we actually stepped in there. So like, there's something that we need to reach out to the district and see if we can coordinate.
We have. So the principle is, they actually did some investment, right? There's the tree plant.
But that was for the water and the
Yeah.
planting.
So they're aware of it, and I think we just need to follow up and come up with some plan to either have them do it or we can maybe assist. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, I think we've got two things that we're going to be looking at that are solely us. One is, you know, this grant and where we want to make those improvements, and what we're doing at the park as well. And it sort of makes sense to have that holistic approach to it, of what can we do in front of the school. Because it's, you know, there's some quick, easy fixes. Oh, we put some more bricks there, we line it up and keep the water there, but you're not really dealing with the problem and with, you know, the runoff. And it should be a way to both make it look beautiful, or at least better, and take care of that problem as well.
The issue is the entire length of Beekman, so it runs off the turf field, it runs off of where the War Memorial is, and then it also runs off along Mechanico and takes all the wood chips with it. So it's the entire park has a pretty bad.
But you left out that the wood chips then flow into the street and into the storm sewers and clog the storm sewers,
Yeah,
so
that happens.
So, yeah. All right, so we'll approve this and we'll put this on for next week and see if it gets approved and start working on some of these plans. The Kingsland Point, Fremont Pond. Before I go any further, I just wanted, since I messed up on all the dates last week, I thought last week was this week. This Sunday will be the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We'll start in Tarrytown on Main Street. We'll come north on Route 9 and then turn on Beekman Avenue and end here in Sleepy Hollow. It's usually pretty fun. No idea what the weather's going to be like a week from now. Good. Okay, great. encourage everybody to come out, and we'll see you then. So we should be here sometime after 2 as we come around. It's also daylight savings begins next Sunday, so that's spring forward. So when you get up and it's 9 o'clock, it's really 10. So just, sorry, a memory trick for me, spring forward, fall back. The only way I can remember it. So those two things, I just wanted to make sure we got that out there. Fremont Pond Improvement Project. Mr. Giacchi, I want to kick that off.
So just an update on that. The last meeting, we referred the proposals to the Environment Advisory Committee and to the Public Space Council. I'm still waiting for a recommendation for both. I know the EAC met last night and they weren't ready to make a recommendation. I don't think they're going to pick one, they'll probably pick two, or at least give us what they see as the priorities. I know one of their concerns is that it's a public process and that community has input, especially those who live in the area. So we should be getting a recommendation from those two groups this week, and I'll forward it on to the board.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay. Kingsland Point park permit. I know it was just circulated to the board. I have some real questions about it. Just as a reminder, Kingsland is a county park. We manage it for the county. The broad outline of the agreement is that we're responsible for maintaining the park. They're responsible for any major capital improvement, which is defined as anything over $20,000. Obviously, right now, they're involved in a major capital improvement that's way more than $20,000, as they're thankfully repairing the seawall. My point of looking at the agreement is, yes, I believe the old one has expired. We need to have something in place. I think the old one continues until we have a new one, but either way, we need to do something there. I don't think this agreement is kind of sort of off the shelf, or maybe it's a variation of one we've had in the past, but it doesn't properly recognize the work that's going on in the park right now. Most of the lawn that we're supposed to keep mowed doesn't exist anymore because it's got construction material and vehicles all over it. It's going to stay like that for a while. We know that it's part of their plans to replace it when they do move forward. We also know the second part of, where there still is grass, that's going to get wiped out in the spring when they move to the next section, because all the construction vehicles and equipment have to move further south. Just one other, so I think we need to have some changes in the agreement with the county and see, and that's my recommendation anyway, is that we send it back with a little bit better recognition of what's going on in there right now. There's another point related to this that I think we need to get into soon, and that is how open will Kingsland be this coming summer? I understand that the programs that are in the bathhouse will be able to go forward, the kayak folks and the seas, the sailing folks, that the beach will be open and they'll be able to get out there. But if half of the park is going to be closed again, do we, and the other, main lawn area is going to be reseeded? Like, how much space is there going to be in the park? And I'm in there all the time and live next door practically, like you do. And on the weekends, it's always packed. I mean, it's a huge resource for a lot of people and a really important one. But we need to think about how we make that park experience one that's like okay for folks. You can't let people in and then say, everything's closed. So it's, we'll need to get Mr. Arone in on a discussion with that and further discussion with the county to see exactly where they're going to be, and decide how much we, how open is the park going to be, how realistic is it that the park can be used? I just think 4th of July, it is a standing room only essentially. How much of the park are we gonna, be able to open?
Is our council gonna be reviewing this and going through it?
Yeah. So what I had requested from council was essentially something like a red line version. So like, what was the current one or old one? What are the changes? And then to get the county to give us a bit more, not a bit more, a lot more, you recognize the current situation in the park.
Could we also explore maybe why they're giving us a year permit and not continuing with the 5-year IMA that was in existence?
That is certainly a big question.
Do they have plans that they're not letting us know about?
I don't know. I have not heard anything.
And it seems odd that it's dated starting January 1st, when it's March.
The other one might have expired on the 31st of December. So,
Yeah, to Denise's point, if we go back and forth for another month or two, then we're already almost halfway through.
mhm.
Could we jump to the 7th discussion item, and then I'll pull something up on the screen for the 6th, and we can do the 6th one last. Is that okay?
Yeah, sort of, I've got another item I just wanted to raise for folks as well. But good with Kingsland?
Yeah.
Okay. The notification process, as Trustee Leon was saying, we were walking around downtown on Sunday, and I'm looking at the water main break right around the corner here, which is sort of fascinating to see them digging it up and how they were doing it, and more yellow bricks coming out of the road. And Renee was saying to me, it's like, hey, I get an email late, but a lot of people, he was at work on Saturday when it first got shut down, the water wasn't there, people saying, what's going on? And there were a lot of people there in the neighborhood who don't get email. And one of the things that, don't have the ability to do that on a regular, but everybody uses text and phones. What can we do to update our notification system so that we can include a text notification for people who want to sign up for that?
So I get village notifications via text. It exists.
I get only the ambulance and fire department stuff. Yeah,
But there is-
why are you
I
special?
don't get that.
I think I signed up at some point. I think we have
I
it.
didn't know you got a text, but I do know we have a reverse 911 system for
Yeah,
phone
for that's
calls.
for like when there's snow emergencies, you could do the same
Yeah,
thing.
I'm not 100% sure we can isolate the area, so it would be village-wide, so
Uh-huh.
if there was
Yeah,
a
that's
section of
fine.
the village, but I think we do have a reverse 911 system that could do it.
If we can
Maybe
communicate
should-
items like that for.
So I got an alert today about the public hearing
Yeah, me too.
at
Renee,
3:15.
you want to finish?
Yeah.
I was going to say that if we can use that to communicate items like that, and also that if it possible to all the trustees get a notification firsthand when the water main broke or something, so at least our constituencies know exactly, because I get like 6 calls in the middle of my job. I have no idea because the email I received was a few hours later after the event happened. So I want to be able to communicate and say this is what's happening. Like on Sunday, by coincidence, I meet the mayor and we're walking around. It's just like a few minutes before the water main broke again. So we were able to walk around and let the people know that there was a water main broke. So it's going to be a few hours without water again. And so people were very happy that we were able to communicate with them. So I would like to emphasize in that. text communication more than emails, because a lot of people don't use emails.
Well, I agree with Lauren, we get text, and now, I did not get a text about the water main break, I got other things, but.
Yeah, I did get an email on the water main, but not a text. So it's possible some go out via email and text and some only email. So maybe we can get everything on the same.
Yeah, so that's something that we can straight out the communication system, so then we all get on the same page, even the community itself.
So it's kind of a twofold issue. We have to perhaps strengthen how many messages go out via text, and then secondly, send an email to people saying, by the way, you can also sign up to get text messages.
Is it possible when you did sign up that you put that option in?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
I can't remember what it was, a long time
Yeah,
ago.
because I didn't even know you could get text. I know that reverse 911, but that's landlines.
And I've been on recently because the emails weren't going through, and so I went on, and I believe it's Blackboard is the provider, and I think it's a box you check whether you want texts or emails.
So we can create like an awareness of that, or create a campaign, so people are able to sign up. Otherwise, I'm willing to go knock the doors and people asking like, can you want to sign up for this, so then you can get an update of any current events of the village.
So there's the issue of the public receiving notice, right, but then there's also us. And if there's some emergency situation, I would appreciate receiving some type of communication, like a water main break in the downtown, or a major fire or something. That'd be helpful if neighbors are starting to reach out to me, so that I can tell them what I know versus like scrambling to figure it out.
And so I wonder if, because clearly there's some distinction made now between what only goes via email versus email and text. And so maybe we add the category of like current emergency, infrastructure to the text category, where everybody gets it. And then that same category would be some sort of notification.
Yeah, for the public, sure, but I'm just saying for us.
For the board, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Those things are.
if you could look at, for starters, just anytime there's a water main break or something like that, I can anticipate that. Also, if there's a fire emergency, or there's a police action or something like that that can go out.
That one's on me. I could just text the board.
Right, but for folks that, for our residents, to be able to get the notifications as well. I mean, I realize there may be a difference with, because of some things might be more easily stated to the general public. I know I didn't say that exactly the right way, but.
I have a related but slightly different question, so I'll wait until.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking on here, I'm trying to like go on and do it now with the Blackboard, and like, so I got in and it's it asks me if I'm a resident. It only allows me to check outreach, not emergency. So I don't know if there's just like some type of setting on here where you can check. Oh,
Yeah, that's the kind of things that I would like to be clear for the people that want to sign up, because sometimes going through the loops and people get like, it's too much and want to. So let's create an awareness. Let's create something that people will sign. Like it will be easier for our residents to, especially for those who doesn't use technology and it's like still have a flip phone into their hands.
Okay.
Oh, you can get text sometimes.
All right, so Mr. Giacchio, you'll work on that and get back to us next. Trustee Connell also raised a point about wanting to get back into, we had started looking at zoning downtown, and so I'm kind of raising it as an old business, new business item here, and to continue that work, and no one being particularly prepared to do that, and I just wanted to get it on the agenda in that sense, and say, let's, you know, in 2 weeks at our next work session, let's come prepared to get back into that.
That's related to what we did earlier with the Lower Beekman overlay and maybe applying it to Valley or other locations.
Yeah, and
He
looking,
just summarized it, that's perfect.
yeah,
I'm good for
what he said.
He said, did you write it down?
Great, thanks.
I think I know, I'm thinking of it.
Can I ask my follow-up question though on the water main break?
Yes.
So the sidewalk is being dug up, you know, on Broadway, on the hill, where it was open forever and there was like that collapse and we fixed it. It looks like there's a new pit being dug above it. Is that a new problem or is that the same? Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's the culvert underneath there.
Yeah, it is related to another water main break that they did over there. So the two contractors have caused the two water main breaks. This one happened to be twice.
Thanks.
But they're dealing with both of those. But the water mains are obviously repaired, but they have to repair the sidewalk.
But they're digging up a new part of the sidewalk, so it's a new,
Section? It's probably related to the
The same,
project.
okay.
Yeah.
man, that's been going on for a while.
It took years for it to get repaired.
And Mr. McCarthy, it's probably, or it is, related to the,
So
oh,
they're
It's
just
okay.
the culvert underneath, right?
So they're just moving up like a new section?
Yeah.
Got it. I hope they don't collapse the wall on this section.
I hope they know what they're doing, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't snow again, too. It's,
Snow is gone.
okay, move on to our last discussion item.
So the last time we spoke about bollards, we were looking at this type. This company that sells them is from the UK. I don't think.
Microphone.
Yeah, can you hear me?
No.
No.
Okay. My name is Jared Rodriguez, 13 Kendall Avenue. The bollards that we were looking at the last time, this one is coming from the UK. I don't think that we're going to ship these giant cast iron bollards from the UK. It seems silly. I was talking to a foundry in Ohio, might get a price on that, but right now I don't have a price on this style. There's this style, one of two, and this is what I would recommend for that spot on North Washington that we spoke about specifically, and one of these, right? Traditional, non-controversial, I think. I think the one up top that's all over Chappaqua, for example, they got them at every corner, and pretty inexpensive from what I can tell.
Sorry, Jared, you said one of those? Or one of the models? Or
One.
just the models?
Yeah, one of the style.
But multiple of them?
Yeah.
Could we wait till you get another price from the foundry on the smaller ones? I mean, I kind of like the smaller ones better, especially since.
Yeah, so the issue with that, at that particular location, is that sidewalk's really narrow.
Mhm.
I had a chance to walk it, and the bell bollard is pretty wide.
Oh, on the base of it, you mean? Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
so like
Okay.
it'd be eating up the
Yep.
sidewalk
I got it.
versus this, I think is less than 8 inches
Got it. Okay.
in diameter. That bell bollard, I want to get those and try those in certain spots, because I think that they are really good. So what I would recommend is, like, similarly to how we did the planters, we could authorize a certain sort of like budget to purchase bollards and then advance the North Washington location, and then perhaps think about some of these additional locations, some of which we've discussed, I think, extensively. Yeah.
And I would like to move forward with that because we feel like we've been talking a lot about this and not getting done. So if we can get it done, I know we're working in Washington, but we have that in place already, but the job is done, so we can just put in place, having the items in hand already. Otherwise, we'll be like, the job in Washington will be done, and then we're just gonna go and purchase, so it will take longer to get things done.
The issue at which, I mean, I'm in favor of doing this, but the issue again is that there's concern of vehicles, namely the bus, mounting the curb or brushing along the curb, right, if people are standing there. Will this withstand that? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, I think it will.
And so if a bus hits this, will it dislodge it though?
It might,
So then we just have to replace it again?
yeah.
I think
Or
the
the
bus,
beeline would.
but-
the bus is gonna flatten it.
But also,
It's like-
this will create awareness
It's
of,
just gonna blow, I mean, what do they weigh?
There's a
How many
vision of
tons?
where,
Yes.
yeah.
But the point
How
is
tall are
that-
they?
And what's
tall
your
are they?
overall number?
Jerry,
Just-
how tall are?
Jared, how tall are
are
these compared with the bells?
Oh, the bell might be, I think it's like 12 to 18 inches, and this is 3 feet
3 feet, okay.
ish. Yeah,
I like this
I
one.
think
I like the top one.
yeah, and I like the top one too, and I think they're quite handsome.
Yeah.
And I think the point is, like, it's sort of like going over a speed bump. You go fast once, and then after that, you're driving the same road, and you know it's there, and you slow down. And
So-
if one of the
Depends.
advantages of a taller, well, most of us slow down, but the advantage of the taller one is that you can see it, you know, so you're like, oh, what's that? It's, your bus driver, the biggest vehicles are gonna be the bus and local delivery
Yeah.
folks who are gonna be on normal routes. So they're gonna see it and know that that's something, that they can, they're gonna have to avoid.
You know, we've spoken about Route 9, right? That corner where the trucks mount the sidewalk, that is a good spot for the bell bollard, right? Like for a big rig.
Are they stronger? Because I feel like the height is very important.
They're stronger.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the
They'll
meantime,
turn
we can
the
put
wheel.
this,
They basically push the wheel
Because of the shape.
because of the shape. This is different. This is like, you know, you're gonna hopefully stop someone from entering the sidewalk, and it's like a relatively narrow sidewalk, yeah.
I know we alert the Beeline when there need to be route changes for whatever reason. I think it would make, and maybe they know this is happening already, but it makes sense to alert them that we're intending to do this. I mean, hopefully the drivers
Well, they're not
will stop
supposed to
mounting the
be on
curb
the
and not hit
curb.
the
That's
bus.
what was
They're
necessary.
not
They're not supposed to be driving on the sidewalk.
So,
it's kind
It's a
of,
reroute off the curb.
but I'm envisioning damaged buses, broken bollards, and more repair work on the sidewalk, which we don't want any of that.
But remember what we wanted to do, we wanted to pull the stop bar back, so that that problem is not, hopefully not happening,
yeah.
at all. So, you know, yeah, I think we could advance this, and again, like, I wanna try the other one if we can get a hold of
Yeah.
someone that makes them, yeah.
What's the difference between the two?
The one below and the one up top?
Price.
Price and the shape of the top?
It's the same material?
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, they're both cast iron. I can't figure out why the one above is cheaper. The other thing is, like, you can see, just so you can see it, like, here's the base, right? Here's the base, and then this thing extends down further. Pretty sure you could get a steel pipe inside of that too if you wanted it to go down even deeper. So, like, it would take some force to push that over if it's mounted in concrete. So, you know,
Do we have
talk
the-
to Kevin's team and see what he wants to do.
Do we have the equipment to install it? I'm assuming
Yeah.
we do, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
You want to pick a dollar amount for the resolution next week?
We like the top one, which is different, so I'm gonna round up 158 to 200, and we need 10.
That many.
I will do like at least three grand for it, because it might get delivered costs and everything, so.
Yeah, just trying to make a ballpark here.
Yeah, about
What's the-
$3,000 would be like,
Yeah, how many do we need?
Can we just say 10?
I like the idea of having.
Can we just, could we just say 10,000 and like, we're not gonna spend that much, like, could we just kind of
Up
do
to
that?
10,000.
Up to that. And then if we find other spots for bollards, like, great.
Yeah, how much are the other ones?
I don't know. I don't know yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're under budget so far this year.
I see the advantage of having an inventory of these, because I could see other areas where they would be good for safety.
Right, and if we, they're there and we could use them.
We should just use
And then
them.
also, we just had a discussion about downtown and
Yeah.
and the grants that are
Yeah.
coming in to help us with
Yeah.
things exactly like this, so.
should we do an
So
executive
can
session
we-
for it, or should we wait till next week to?
No, let's, so that we can get them ordered.
Okay.
So,
When do you wanna do
can I
that?
get a motion to go into special session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Special session of the Board of Trustees called for one reason, and that is to consider a resolution regarding a $10,000 purchase of bollards. There, keep it simple. Can I get a motion to authorize an expenditure of up to $10,000 for bollards to be used on street corners to be determined at a later date?
So moved.
Second, so motion to.
Wait, including in the corner of North
Beekman and
Washington and Beekman and others to be determined. at a later date. So moved,
So moved.
Second.
seconded, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Resolution's approved. Can I get a motion to end the special session?
So moved.
For a
Seconded.
second, moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Got it.
Opposed? Special session is closed, and we've completed our agenda for the evening, so thank you and good night.